You've felt this, haven't you? That slow, insidious erosion of a connection. It's not one big betrayal or dramatic fight that breaks a relationship. It's 1,000 tiny, unaddressed wounds. It's the moment you realize you're no longer fighting for something, but against each other. It's the feeling that the person you once felt so safe with is now a stranger, an adversary, a source of constant low-grade anxiety. You start to see their actions as intentional slights, and your words become weapons. At Love Threads, we don't just talk about relationships, we deconstruct them. We blend authentic, grounded insights with robust, evidence-based psychology, giving you the real intelligence on why we connect, why we sometimes misstep, and how to truly thrive when love feels like a constantly shifting landscape. Today, we're exploring one of the most fascinating patterns in human relationships, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. These aren't biblical figures bringing about the end of the world, but rather 4 communication patterns that can predict with startling accuracy the end of a relationship. These aren't coincidences. They're not random bad timing. They're psychological and spiritual tests that reveal whether you're truly ready to cross the threshold from casual love into committed partnership. And understanding this pattern might be the key to finally choosing love that lasts. Drop a heart if you've ever felt this ache, this slow unraveling, because today we're going to give it a name and, more importantly, a solution. We're going to uncover the hidden psychological, emotional, and even neurological reasons people stay tethered long after love ends. The unraveling threads, understanding the Four Horsemen. We've all been told that communication is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship. But that phrase, so often repeated, can feel frustratingly vague. What does good communication actually look like, especially in the heat of an argument? It's not just about the words we say, but about the underlying patterns and emotional dynamics at play. For decades, one of the world's leading relationship research institutes has observed thousands of couples, analyzing their conversations and conflicts with scientific precision. What they discovered was astonishing. Certain negative communication patterns were so toxic that they could predict a relationship's failure with an accuracy rate of over 90%. They labeled these destructive habits the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's tempting to view these behaviors, things like constant criticism or a sarcastic eye roll, as simple bad habits, but they are much more insidious. They are not random mistakes. They are symptoms of a deeper sickness in the relationship. They signal unaddressed emotional wounds, deeply rooted insecurities, and a fundamental breakdown in the mutual respect and affection that once held the connection together. Think of them not as isolated incidents, but as a chain reaction. One partner's critical remark triggers the other's defensiveness, which in turn leads to a cold, contemptuous response. This escalates until one person completely withdraws, or stonewalls. This cycle is the result of an entire system in distress, where the goal has shifted from understanding one another to simply winning the fight. Understanding these patterns is the first step toward breaking free from them. The first horseman, criticism. Imagine coming home to a sink full of dirty dishes. You feel a surge of frustration. A helpful, constructive approach would be to say, "Hey, I feel overwhelmed by the dishes. Could you help me with them?" This is a simple complaint, focused on a specific, observable behavior and a feeling it caused. It's direct, actionable, and doesn't attack the person. Now, consider a different approach. "Why do you always leave your mess everywhere? You're so lazy and inconsiderate. I have to do everything around here." This is criticism. It's a verbal assault that moves beyond the behavior to attack your partner's character and worth. The issue isn't the dishes anymore. It's that you've labeled them as lazy and irresponsible. This shift is subtle, but deadly, and it's the starting point of the downward spiral for many couples. Criticism acts like a lethal poison because it turns a manageable issue into a fundamental flaw. It communicates a message far deeper than the surface level problem. You are a bad person. You are fundamentally broken. When a person hears this, their natural psychological response is to erect a wall of defense. They can't process the complaint because they're too busy protecting themselves from the personal attack. The conversation becomes a battle for self-preservation, not a collaboration to solve a problem. This is where the crucial link between criticism and vulnerability comes into play. You can't be vulnerable, open, honest, and willing to share your true feelings when you're in an environment where you feel constantly judged and attacked. Vulnerability requires a sense of emotional safety. When criticism is a regular pattern, that safety is shattered. Instead of saying, "I feel hurt when this happens," a critical person says, "You are bad because you did this." The focus shifts entirely from sharing a personal experience to issuing a moral judgment. This pattern isn't just about harsh words. It's about a breakdown in empathy and a loss of the shared understanding that you're on the same team. Over time, consistent criticism erodes trust and makes it nearly impossible to have a productive discussion. It's the first crack in the foundation, and if left unaddressed, the entire structure of the relationship can collapse. Of isolation and hostility. It is the ultimate destroyer of love. The third horseman, defensiveness. When criticism and contempt are thrown at us, our first instinct is to shield ourselves from the emotional blow. This protective reaction is known as defensiveness, the third of the four horsemen. It's a natural yet highly destructive response that turns a shared problem into a blame game. You'll often hear it in phrases that deflect responsibility, like, "I'm not the one who," or, "Yeah, but what about when you?" The core of defensiveness is the refusal to accept any part of the blame. Instead, it's about pushing it back onto the other person. Consider a scenario where a woman says to her partner, "You never help me with the laundry." A non-defensive response might be, "You're right, I haven't been helping as much lately. I'm sorry." But the defensive partner might snap back, "Well, I was going to, but you didn't tell me you needed it done. Besides, you never helped me with the finances, so why is this my problem?" Notice how he's not listening to her complaint about the laundry. Instead, he's instantly trying to justify his actions and counterattack with a complaint of his own. His focus isn't on understanding her feelings, but on proving his own innocence and pointing out her flaws. This behavior is a way of declaring, "The problem isn't me, it's you." It completely shuts down any chance of productive conflict resolution because neither person is willing to take ownership of their part in the issue. The dynamic shifts from two partners collaborating to solve a problem to two opponents fighting to prove their righteousness. This unproductive cycle leaves both individuals feeling unheard, frustrated, and deeply misunderstood. A respected relationship coach of talking to a brick wall, where your words, your feelings, and your very presence are rendered insignificant. This dynamic can feel like a profound betrayal of intimacy. Stonewalling is a powerful signal that the relationship is on the brink of collapse. It indicates that one or both partners have lost all hope that their conflicts can be resolved productively. The relationship ceases to be a living, breathing entity and becomes a cold, lifeless space. The stonewaller is essentially declaring, "I'm checking out," and with that, the emotional connection is severed. Archetypal narratives and sacred contracts. The Four Horsemen are more than just bad communication habits. They are reflections of a deeper human story, echoing throughout myth and psychology. They represent the archetypal tests we must pass on our journey toward mature love, a sacred space where we confront our deepest fears and flaws. Consider these behaviors through a different lens, the lens of a psychological expert who suggests that some partners enter our lives to awaken a hidden part of ourselves. The contentious partner might be mirroring our own lack of self-respect. The stonewaller might be reflecting our own fear of intimacy. These are not just conflicts, they are initiations. This is a dance. A partner's defensiveness might be a conditioned response from a childhood where they were constantly criticized. Their contempt could be a shadow they've projected onto you, a part of themselves they cannot stand. The Four Horsemen are the shadows in the relationship, the hidden parts that emerge under pressure. The true work is not to eliminate them, but to bring them into the light and understand their origins. The story of the unseen wound, the critic and the orphan. The first horseman, criticism, is the modern manifestation of a timeless archetype, the orphan. The orphan's story is one of abandonment and a deep, gnawing sense of being fundamentally unloved or unworthy. When the orphan archetype shows up in a relationship, they often wear the mask of the critic. Their complaints are not just about a messy kitchen or a missed call. They are a desperate attempt to gain control over a world that once felt chaotic and unsafe. The criticism they hurl at their partner is a projection of the internal judgment they hold for themselves. They believe that if they can just point out every flaw, every failure, they can prevent the ultimate rejection, being abandoned again. The partner on the receiving end often feels like a constant disappointment, endlessly trying to meet an impossible standard. This dynamic reveals a sacred contract to confront and heal that original wound. The critic tests the partner's capacity for unconditional acceptance, forcing them to find a way to offer reassurance and security without enabling the destructive behavior. The real challenge is to see past the harsh words and connect with the lonely, frightened orphan who is desperate for love but only knows how to push it away. The story of the shattered idol, contempt and the fallen king or queen. Contempt is born from a deeper, more tragic narrative, the fallen king or queen. This is the story of someone who once held themselves in high esteem, perhaps due to a fragile ego or an external achievement, only to have that sense of superiority shattered by life or by the vulnerabilities of love. To avoid feeling small or inadequate, they project their inner sense of shame and failure onto their partner. The contemptuous remarks, the eye rolls, the belittling jokes are not about their partner's flaws. They are desperate attempts to climb back onto a pedestal by pushing their partner down. This archetype enters the relationship to reveal a fundamental imbalance of power and self-worth. The sacred contract here is a difficult one. The partner must decide whether to engage in the game of who is superior or to hold a mirror to the fallen king's pain, forcing them to confront their own feelings of worthlessness. The relationship becomes a battleground where one person's insecurity demands the other's subservience, and true intimacy is sacrificed for the illusion of control. The only way to move forward is for the fallen king to abdicate the throne of their ego and for the partner to refuse to kneel. The story of the guardian of the fortress, defensiveness and the knight. The third horseman, defensiveness, is embodied by the archetype of the knight. The knight's story is one of perpetual vigilance. Having been hurt or criticized in the past, they have built an emotional fortress to protect their heart. They believe that any attack, no matter how small, must be met with a counterattack. A simple complaint feels like a siege, and they respond not with listening, but with a full-scale assault of justification and counter-blame. They are so busy guarding their innocence that they miss the opportunity for connection. Their sacred contract is to learn that true strength lies not in an impenetrable wall, but in vulnerability. The knight enters a relationship to test whether they can finally lay down their sword and trust that being seen, flaws at all, is not a sign of weakness, but an act of courage. The partner's role is to refuse to fight the knight, to speak softly, and to find a way to express their needs without triggering the fortress's defenses, perhaps by using I statements and taking a gentle approach. The dance is to show the knight that the relationship is a safe haven, not a battlefield. The story of the lost pilgrim, the emotional wall, and the hermit. The emotional wall is a manifestation of the hermit archetype. This is the story of profound withdrawal, of someone who has learned that the only way to feel safe is to retreat entirely from the world. Having been overwhelmed by conflict or emotional demands in the past, they have chosen silence as their primary form of self-preservation. They are not intentionally punishing their partner, they are simply retreating to their inner cave, a place where no one can hurt them. Their partner, left in the cold, feels utterly abandoned and unloved. The sacred contract of the hermit is to learn that they can be present in a storm without drowning. The relationship acts as a guide, pulling them back into connection, forcing them to confront their fear of emotional flooding. For the partner, the test is to learn patience and self-regulation, to resist the urge to chase the hermit into their cave, and to create a space where the hermit feels safe to emerge. The goal is to show the hermit that their emotional safety is not dependent on complete isolation, but on learning to navigate intimacy without disappearing. The final test is for both partners to meet in the middle, each letting go of their protective armor and choosing presence over distance. Rewriting the narrative. The good news is that these negative patterns aren't a relationship death sentence. They're a roadmap showing you exactly where to do the work. You can learn to reverse them by consciously replacing them with their positive counterparts. Antidote to criticism, gentle startup. Target. Instead of attacking your partner's character, the antidote to criticism is a gentle startup. This means complaining without blame and focusing on your own feelings and a specific behavior. This approach is the heart of nonviolent communication, NVC. It shifts the dynamic from a personal attack to a shared problem, turning opponents into partners with a common goal. Instead of, "You're so inconsiderate for leaving your clothes on the floor." Try, "I feel overwhelmed when I see the clothes on the floor, and I'd really appreciate it if you could put them away." Antidote to contempt. Build a culture of appreciation. The opposite of contempt isn't just a lack of disrespect, it's a deep, genuine culture of appreciation. This involves actively noticing and vocalizing what you value about your partner, and mentally calm down. This isn't an excuse to avoid the conversation forever. It's a necessary step to re-regulate your nervous system. You can go for a walk, listen to music, or do deep breathing exercises. This practice teaches you to manage your own feelings, which a leading psychologist on emotional intelligence reminds us is the first step to managing relationships. Instead of sitting in silent, punishing withdrawal, try, "I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. Can we please take a break and come back to this in 30 minutes? The role of inherited patterns. It's tempting to believe that our relationship problems are unique to our specific partner or situation. Yet, a deeper look reveals that many of the conflict patterns we fall into are not just ours, they are inherited. The work of family therapists suggests that we unconsciously carry the emotional legacies of our family of origin.
The way your parents navigated conflict, the silent tensions in your childhood home, or the emotional distance you observed, all of these become a silent, internalized script that you follow in your adult relationships. Consider the person who reflexively uses defensiveness. This isn't just a simple refusal to take responsibility. It may be a learned survival mechanism from a childhood where admitting fault was met with harsh criticism or punishment. Similarly, the person who stonewalls might be reenacting a pattern they witnessed, where emotional withdrawal was the only perceived safe harbor from overwhelming conflict. This understanding isn't about blaming your parents or your past, it's about shifting from personal fault to relational context. When you can recognize that your partner's defensiveness is less about you and more about a deep-seated inherited dynamic, it changes everything. It reframes the conflict from "you are wrong" to "there is a story here we need to understand." By shining a light on these inherited patterns, you're engaging in a profound act of relational intelligence.
Conclusion and reflection. Every relationship, whether it lasts a season or a lifetime, is a collection of threads. Some are vibrant and strong, while others are afraid and weak. The Four Horsemen are the unraveling threads, the parts of the fabric that threaten to pull the whole thing apart. They are the cracks in the foundation, the silent poisons that accumulate until a connection becomes untenable. But by understanding them, you gain a choice. You can recognize the signs of decay, and more importantly, choose to reweave your connection with strength and intention. Every person you've ever loved is a unique thread in your life's fabric. Some threads stay woven in, becoming part of the permanent tapestry of who you are. Others unravel and fall away, leaving space behind. The crucial lesson is that none of these threads are wasted. The pain of loosening one knot can be the start of another, stronger knot, this time woven from your own strength and wisdom.
The relationships that thrive are not the ones that never face conflict, but the ones that learn how to fight well. This isn't about magical thinking or a quick fix. It's a practice, a daily, conscious choice. It's the moment-to-moment decision to replace criticism with compassion, to understand that an attack on character is a symptom of a deeper wound. It's the choice to counter contempt with appreciation, actively seeking out and honoring the good in your partner, even when you're hurt. It's the courage to drop defensiveness and take responsibility, understanding that the health of the relationship is more important than being right. And it's the difficult but necessary practice of replacing emotional withdrawal with presence, learning to regulate your own nervous system so you can show up for the person you love. This journey is not easy. It asks you to confront your own fears, insecurities, and inherited patterns. But in doing so, you are not only healing your relationship, but also a part of yourself. The love you build from this awareness becomes a testament to your resilience and a model of what's truly possible.
Conclusion and reflection. Every relationship, whether it lasts a season or a lifetime, is a collection of threads. Some are vibrant and strong, while